he coaches. I don't agree with his management of players. I don't agree with this small ball bullshit. There's a lot of things I don't agree with, but Heat fans, because the local media and national media want to say, he's the best. They want to hold on to something because their team sucks. So they just want to be able to run on Twitter and say, "Oh, well, my coach is the best." Well, what the fuck good does that do?
Welcome to the Miami Heat Zone podcast. We're pushing to 10,000 subscribers. Make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button, and thank you guys for all the support. Today, we have my boy, Herro. He's been on the show in the past. Herro, how are you today?
Good, brother.
Well, today, we are going to jump right into it, guys. We have a lot to talk about today. But, Herro, before we get into everything, obviously, all the trade rumors are going on. Let's start off with Tyler Herro. Just give the people your standpoint on Tyler Herro, why he should stay, and then even if he was to go, he's not a bad player, obviously. And I just feel like a lot of people don't give him the offensive credit. Obviously, he's never going to be this two-way lockdown defender, and that's fine. Everybody can be. However, Tyler Herro can still provide, a huge help to plenty of teams across the NBA. We've spoken about Detroit. We've spoken about OKC, even the Spurs. So what's your overall standpoint with Tyler Herro in Miami and his dynamic this past season, especially with Norman Powell, and then also too if he's to be traded?
There's a lot to talk about. My stance on Tyler Herro is he's an elite offensive player. I mean, the guy's scored over 20 5 years in a row. He made an all-star team. Um, does he have deficiencies? Yeah, sure, but there's a lot of guys in the NBA that have deficiencies. Um, I believe he's a core piece. I think this fan base has just gotten to a point where they're like, "Oh, we just want change for change," and I don't agree with that stance. Everybody thinks that Tyler Hero's been in every trade, all these trades, which is not true. The plan has always been to add, and people talk about talent, and the one thing you can't say is he's not talented. Um, Now you come down to the trade. You talk about the trade with Giannis, this and that. Listen, I would like Giannis, but this is where people get out of whack. Like, I don't want Giannis if I have to use Tyler to do it. Like, I would look for another way. I would move Wiggins. I would make him the money, whatever. If the Bucks aren't keeping Tyler, then what's the difference? He's just money. So then I would move Wiggins. I don't look at Wiggins as a core piece. Um, and the main reason behind all this is if you trade everything for Giannis, you're not going to have enough to go get a player as good as Tyler Hero or better. So then what are you doing? You're just swapping out pieces and you're just losing assets to do it. I've said consistently, I think if they do this trade, they're a first round exit because they're not going to have or be able to get the pieces that you're going to need. If you look at all these teams that have won over the last 8 years, this and that, they all have an inside out presence. Once you get rid of Tyler Hero, which is the only guy on this team that can get consistently doubled, only guy, what do you have? You're gonna count on Davion Mitchell and Bam Adebayo being volume 3-point shooters. Good luck with that. It's pretty obvious. Like, it makes the team. Everybody talks about predictability. It makes the team predictable. They'll double Giannis. They'll leave Bam on the corner. Say, okay, beat us. We'll give you 10 threes a game. Whoop de doo if you make fucking three of them. Ooh, 3.5. You're 35%. You got 9 points. We'll live with that all day long. Same thing with Davion Mitchell. I like Davion Mitchell. He's fine, but he's a backup. He was almost out of the league. The team that got rid of him drafted his same identical player and then got rid of him. Like, and now all of a sudden he's a starting point guard on a championship team. Yeah, miss me with that shit. But um, I've always said the same thing. I think you need to figure out a way to keep the talent and then add to that talent because it's a hell of a lot easier to find role players and bench players than it is to find core players. So I don't really see how moving him helps the team.
And then what about the Norman Powell factor and how that affected him, and then the like, how do you think that overall situation has impacted Tyler with Norman Powell being here?
Well, Norman Powell, decided to come in and played the whole political game of I'm a team player, I'm this, I'm that, and what he really did was he tried to go after Tyler's money, and he played the good part and did the whole I want to be an all-star and I should be a starter and this and that. And the reality is he's never been a starter. He's been a six man, I put 95% of his career. But when you're putting teams together, you got to have guys in their right roles and they got to understand what it is. And there's more infighting there as far as well, I should be the starter because I made this all-star team this year. And he's just, you know, it's obvious when you look at the whole scenario and what's going on. He wants this trade. He wants this trade because he wants Tyler out of here, and he knows that they're going to have to pay him for the same reasons I was talking about before. They're going to need shooting. So if Tyler's gone, he gets money. But nobody's given that guy a contract, which is why his old team didn't give him the contract. Which is, if he was so great, then why did his old team get rid of him? So um he has aspirations, and I'm not faulting him for wanting more and all that kind of stuff, but he's not better than Tyler. And if he's not going to understand his role on the team and be supportive in that role, then go, because you're not better than Tyler. But that's not what he wants right now. He wants to get paid, which I understand players want to get paid. um but there causes conflict in there. This other guy's been here 6 7 years, the guy they drafted. you know do you think Norman Powell's making an all-star last team if Tyler, if the organization decided not to do the foot thing freaking 3 months late? No, of course he's not. Tyler would have made the all-star, and then you'd have a two-time all-star. And what are we talking about? So um I don't know what they're going to do. I'm sure he's an option if they do use Tyler as the money, but I don't think that helps you. But
And then how do you feel about Erik Spoelstra? We've both been very critical of him, especially not playing, Khalil Ware and Kaspers, because at the end of the day, we still lost the games. Whether they played or not, we still lost. When we went the Erik Spoelstra route, we lost. The only thing that happened is that the young guys were balling. I'll never forget Casper's first game where he starts. He drops 15 in Boston. You had Khalil Ware where he had especially 2 great months where he had like 20 and 15, 18 and 10. He had phenomenal games. And I'm not saying that this young core is anything close to an OKC core or a Spurs core just yet. However, we always talk about clarity, and we have to always think about the future, because honestly, that's what the NBA is about, especially right now. You have young teams in the NBA Finals, in the Western Conference Finals, in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think the Knicks really showed why, when you have a team that's been together for a while, an older group of guys versus the Spurs, which they're still trying to find their way. But what do you think about how Erik Spoelstra's coaching was this past season and how poorly he handled Khalil Ware, Kasparis, and just the overall team?
I mean, anybody who's watched this show or knows me knows I'm not a fan of Spo. Um, I don't think he's the worst, but I certainly don't think he's anywhere in the conversation of the best. Today's a different NBA. These guys are so laser focused on money that back in the day, you had a way to keep guys around and do the quote unquote, bring them up slow program and all that kind of stuff. And that's just not what is going on today. These guys want money, and the only way they can get money is playing. And it's funny, we just watched the Spurs. Everybody considers the Spurs and the Heat this class organizations, and they do things this way. The Spurs just signed a $50 million point guard, which obviously didn't play well, and they still gave their rookie point guard 25, 26 minutes a game, and they were highlighting him in the finals. Our guy that we drafted was a top 10 guy that slipped because people had concerns about certain things that he'd already proven in the league that he could do. And this guy's playing in Idaho. You know, you can't keep these players down the way they do. And they're doing it strategically. And I know why they're doing it. They're trying to keep their next contract down. But that's bullshit, to be honest with you. I mean, Khalil Ware had what? I think it was 12 games of 15 and 15 he averaged. I mean, look at this Giannis deal now. If this guy averaged that for the year and played like that all year long and was playing 30 minutes a game, you wouldn't be giving up half your freaking team to get the guy. And that's part of the problem. People don't want to admit it, but I know for a fact, players get upset with this shit. You see Jovic about it. The Players know that playing time equates to money. And when you're holding a guy back and you're giving us all this bullshit excuses about I got to bring him slow or I got to do this or I got to do that, well then if you thought those things, you shouldn't have drafted that guy. If what you wanted was, the Jaime Jaquez, the 4-year guy, the guy that gets it and all that kind of stuff and is a little bit more worldly experienced, then that's the guy you should have drafted. Don't go draft the 19-year-old super talent and then say, hey, I'm not going to play. But they fucked up in a lot of areas, like, listen, if you were concerned with Kalel, then you should have had another big on this team because, competition breeds excellence. And when you just say, we're anointing you as the center and blah, 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 and he's got nothing behind him to threaten him for his money, then he can do what he wants. But at the end of the day, the kid still needs to play. Casper needs to play. It's the same thing we just talked about a minute ago. Davion Mitchell was almost out of the league before the Heat saved him. And you have your first round pick playing behind him and another guy who just came off 2 knee surgeries? Explain that shit to me. Like, this team would look very, very different if you were going into a guy's 3rd year and 2nd year and you had solidified your center and your 1 spot. Now you can figure out how you can make upgrades rather than doing some desperation bullshit because you don't have a clue. Because the reality is they don't even know right now whether Kalel can play, whether Kaz can play. They don't have an idea. They think so, but you weren't going to the title this year anyway. So why the fuck didn't you figure that out? Who gives a shit? Good, bad, or ugly? Let that kid play. I don't agree with the way he coaches. I don't agree with his management of players. I don't agree with this small ball bullshit. There's a lot of things I don't agree with, but Heat fans, because the local media and national media want to say, he's the best. They want to hold on to something because their team sucks. So they just want to be able to run on Twitter and say, oh, well, my coach is the best. Well, what the fuck good does that do? Because your coach loses 10% a game, that loses 10% every year in games he shouldn't lose to teams that are starting their 3rd stringers and costs us positions every year. He loses 10%. His fucking offense has been bottom 3rd of the league for the last 11 years. I mean, how are you the best coach and you get the 23rd best offense for 10 fucking years? We're not talking about one day here. We're not talking about 1 year. We're talking about 11 years, bro. 23rd. You're not winning shit with a 23rd offense. And there's a reason why he brought in this fucking Mickey Mouse YMCA freaking offense to pick up the pace because he doesn't know what to do on the offense, because he doesn't know how to highlight players. There's a lot of things wrong with him. There's good things he does. I think he's good as far as as team management, like, keeping an even keel and that sort of thing. But as far as the strategical offensive coach, he fucking sucks.
And then right before we close, we always talk about the betterment of getting Kawhi over Giannis, which once again, I would really prefer to stay young. The NBA is moving to a younger direction. And like I said, I'm not saying we have an OKC core. I'm not saying we have a Spurs core, but I still think if you do a redraft, Khalil Ware and Casper's, they're lottery picks. And obviously,
Yep.
if you can start them with Kawhi and you can have a potential starting lineup of Casper's, Tyler, Kawhi, Bam, Ware, where you have size, athleticism, shooting, versatility. I think that's a more constructed roster. You could even keep the 13th pick in the draft. So, how do you feel about Kawhi and his fit if we were to go that route?
I think he's the perfect fit. The problem with this team and the problem people have with Tyler is that Tyler's not a number 1. And I agree. But I think Tyler is a solid number 2. And the problem with this team for a long time has been the pieces don't fit. At the end of the day, strategy and fit wins out. Yes, there's times when we had the big 3, and that's where most of this fan base is fucked up, where you just overwhelmingly have just, this crazy amount of talent that you can get through. But that crazy amount of talent still only won 50% of the time. And what they say? Oh, they had to go back to fit. They had to restructure the way the team was because fit matters. Bam and Giannis don't fit. They fit on defense, but they don't fit on offense. But everybody just wants to make a change. And then they say, well, we'll figure it out. Well, this isn't the NBA 15 years ago where you're getting Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis and Shang Battier and all these guys in free agency and they're coming here for pennies on the dollar. That's not happening. So if you can't build the team the way you did 15 years ago, why are you trying to recreate that shit? Kawhi fits perfectly because he's a number one. It slots everybody into exactly what they're supposed to do. Where in Kaz, you're still young, you are slotted exactly where you're supposed to be. You have a number one, you have a number two, you have a number three, and you got your young guys. And it doesn't allow you to gut your team. You can go get a backup center. You can keep your 13th pick and get a guy to supplant Kawhi, 2, 3 years down the road. It's you're keeping the stuff that you've been building for 4 or 5 years and you're adding to it. Like this addition by subtraction or subtraction, whatever the fuck they call it, that's bullshit. The teams that win are the teams that build. And gutting your team for this guy is I just don't think it's the right play. I think he's the perfect player. I think he's better than Wiggins, and he answers the exact thing what the team needs. The team needs a number one. Kawhi Leonard is a number one. Yes, he's funny. Yes, he's got family things and whatever, but he is a number goddamn one, and he's been in multiple title chases before. Tyler is a number two, legitimately.
There you go,
Bam
Daryl.
it Bam is a 3 and a 4. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Everybody is slotted in where it's supposed to be and how the fit goes. And that's when teams really find their groove and they stack up wins.
Well, Daryl, thank you so much for coming on the show. Do you have any other comments, concerns, anything that Miami Heat fans should be looking forward to when it comes to Tyler or anything like that?
No, I mean, if Tyler gets traded, I hope he goes to Detroit just so they can kick the crap out of the Heat and I can laugh at everybody. I really would like him in Minnesota. I think he's perfect in Minnesota. There's a bunch of teams that need a number two, bro. Um, Anywhere where he can be what he is as a secondary playmaker and a scorer and has good pieces on both sides of him, because yeah, he's not the greatest on he's not a great on the ball defender, but he doesn't cost 65 million. If he was a great on ball defender and scored 25 5 and 5, he'd be worth 65 million. But that's the problem. Everybody in this league wants this two-way guy and they want to pay 30 million for him. Well, I'm sorry, fucking world doesn't work like that. So, you know, he's great on offense. He's a good help defender on the backside, which is why he gets 5 rebounds a game. He's just not great on ball. So if you can plug him in somewhere where he's got two good defenders, or the offense is built around a main piece like an Ant or a Cade or something like that, and you've got good defenders like Asar and Jaden McDaniels on the other side of him, and it allows him just to be a secondary relief guy and shooter, I think he'd kill it. I think he'd kill it, and I think both of those teams would vault to the top rather quickly, to be honest with you.
Guys, make sure that you like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't worry, we will bring Daryl back, and I can't wait to read the comment section.